Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman, my main man, Mike Antonese. Mike, what's happening on this cold and snowy Friday?
It is very cold and snowy, so I hope everybody out there within the Midwest, because it looks like the storm's pretty much blown over all of us, is being safe out there, driving safe. Hopefully all the salt truck workers and everybody working out in this is safe. Other than that, I'm in for the night, ready to talk some foosball on a little topic blitz we got going. We got some stuff cooking, don't we, Joseph?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff cooking, a lot of interesting things in the football world for sure. A lot of coaching changes. I know Antonio Pierce has now been retained by the Raiders, which I agree with that.
Congratulations for the Raiders.
Uh,
Mark Davis finally doing something intelligent. It's amazing.
What's going to happen with the Chargers? Everything's Harbaugh's going there, but I think there might be a little
Vrabel
contract.
interviewed there.
Vrabel interviewed
That's
David
a hard
Shaw.
decision.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe Harbaugh wants 18 to 20 million a year. I don't know if they're going to pay him that. So, a lot of stuff going on. But even right here in Cleveland, Mike, some breaking news early this week. Kevin Stefanski just basically fired
Cleaned
everybody
house a little bit. Yeah.
So I guess we can start there.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Joseph and I are Cleveland Browns fans. We live in the Cleveland area, and we cover the Cleveland Browns from time to time. And Kevin Stefanski, who is still favorite to win Coach of the Year, I'd say, was it 2 or 3 days after the playoff loss, fired offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, who's been with the team since 2020, since Kevin Stefanski's inaugural year, as well as T.C. McCartney, the tight ends coach, and Stump Mitchell, the running backs coach, both of which have also been here since 2020. Now, what does that mean? Couple things. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Stefanski is the main play caller in Cleveland, like Sean McVay or Matt LaFleur or some of these other West Coast coaches. He is our predominant play caller. And he learned from legendary coach Gary Kubiak in the Vikings. Mm-hmm. Super Bowl winning coach, probably would have won another one with the Broncos if the Broncos, if they didn't make him draft Paxton Lynch when he didn't want to draft Paxton Lynch, and you got that whole situation, but that's another story. He learned from Gary Kubiak, and the Kubiak style offense is more than likely why he saw so much success at the end of the season with all the injuries with Joe Flacco, because when you're running that, it can hide a lot of quarterback weaknesses. However, he was running a very vanilla style of the Kubiak offense, and it was very predictable because of that, but you can't run anything too crazy because Joe Flacco had only been here, 6 or 7 weeks, right? Can't install a new offense off the rip. So what does this mean for the Browns? I think it's a great thing, because that shows that Kevin, he said, you know what? 11 wins is good. We could be great. And he is going all in on our franchise quarterback, Deshaun Watson. And I'm sure Andrew Berry will look at, weapons-wise, what we're going to need to change on offense, and we're going to get into that a little bit more later. But what I think personally this means is we are going to definitely look to run a more modern, motion-heavy shotgun offense. Now, people might be a little bit confused as to why Stump Mitchell was fired. Stump Mitchell has had great success. He's a Cleveland favorite. A lot of people around the league respect him. And I don't think it was necessarily a negative thing. It's not really a hindrance on Stump Mitchell and the job that he did as the running backs coach and run game coordinator. It's more so has to do with what he's good at versus where the Browns are going. So Stump Mitchell's really, really good at his bread and butter, which is outside zone running and running out of 13-14 personnel. So essentially, what that means is running out of 13-14 personnel is obviously running with 2 tight end sets, extra O-linemen, and what the Browns are going to start doing, running out of shotgun a lot more inside zone stuff, and running out of 11 or even 12 personnel, so only 1 running back, 1 tight end, what have you, on the field. And that's why we're bringing in, I'm sorry, Deuce, the gentleman from the Lions, and he was with the Panthers running backs coach. What was, fact check me, what's his name? Deuce, is it Deuce something?
Yeah, it was the running back coach Deuce. What the hell is his name?
I can't think of it. He was very good. Coached DeAndre Swift, coached Jamal Williams with the Lions, and then was just hired by the Panthers, and that franchise is a train wreck. So
Deuce Staley.
Deuce Staley, that's what I thought. So they're bringing him in, who all he does is inside zone 11, 12 personnel running. So I think it's just more so not a condemnment on how Stump Mitchell's done. I think everybody can agree Stump Mitchell did a great job while he was here. It's just where the Browns are evolving to is outside of what Stump Mitchell is good at. And that's nothing against Stump Mitchell. TC McCartney, I can see why they moved on. I think David Njoku kind of like made his season his by just yards after the catch. I don't think particularly TC McCartney did a great job. Harrison Bryant has, not gone, he hasn't been developed well. And Jordan Akins was a huge disappointment this year after having a pretty good season in Houston last year. And now with the Browns particularly, I think they're going to start getting a little bit younger in that room outside of David Njoku. They want someone who they think can develop tight ends a little bit better and help them run routes a little bit better. But those are my thoughts on why they moved on. What do you think, Joseph?
Boy. I've had 72 hours to think about all this. So I think they needed to make a move in some way. I think what they were doing for the last 2 years wasn't going to be enough to finally, get over the hump, which they didn't do this year. So, last week's loss was very bad. It was just a very disappointing loss. You were favored to win the game. It's not really that they lost the game; it's just how they lost, how prepared they looked, and just they just looked kind of far away a little bit. You came away from that game just very down, and you just felt like, man, how far is this team really from actually winning a Super Bowl? So I think they needed a change offensively. I think the system, the Gary Kubiak system and the Shanahan system and all this stuff does not fit Deshaun Watson's skill set. You need more of an up tempo. We don't play with tempo a whole lot. A lot of times when we're hiking the ball, it's like 10 to 5 seconds left in the game clock. And we're just too slow sometimes. We don't play with enough tempo. So I'm hopeful that, they bring in a guy that can play that can put more of a spread offense and fit Deshaun's skill set. I wouldn't bring in somebody that's just going to do the same thing. Maybe in that basically what we saw this year, which was the same offense we've seen for the last 3-4 years with just a little extra wrinkles, but not really much. It was just the same. And I think that's why at times you go back to the Cardinals game, Deshaun's sitting there telling Amari Cooper, "Hey, run this route instead," and they throw that bomb and going off script a little bit. And a lot of times when in that Ravens game as well in the second half, kind of going off script. So I think they got to figure it out and find the identity because the only way you're going to win a Super Bowl is if Deshaun Watson plays at the elite level that you traded him for. I think Joe Flacco did a nice job in that system, and he probably looked the best of all the quarterbacks we've had in that system that we were running.
Because he's so familiar with it.
But it's only going to get you so far.
Right.
It ran its course. It's not good enough to get you over the hump. It can win you, kind of like what Dallas is going through right now. It can win you 12 games a year and make the playoffs, but you're going to get bounced in the first round. So I want to see a legit OC come in here, and I think Kevin Stefanski, and I think he is seriously considering this. I know Chops put this out yesterday, and some other people, other reporters as well, people that have followed the team. I think this has been put out there that Kevin's probably considering giving up play calling, which I think would be a good idea. Not that Kevin was, bad this year at times, although it was sometimes good, sometimes it wasn't. I think he's better off in the CEO role. I think when you listen to like David Njoku this week on that podcast about his relationship with Kevin and kind of how the team stayed afloat through all the adversity this year and still made the playoffs, I think he's more of a CEO coach, which is fine. I think that's actually the more successful approach for most teams, unless you have Andy Reid or Sean McVay. It's a tough task for a head coach to be in charge of the offense and coach a team at the same time. It's just a lot to ask, and it doesn't really pan out well usually. A lot of those guys usually get fired in about 4 or 5 years. So he's going into year 5 now. They got to win. They went all in for this trade. You know, I think he should give up play calling, and I think he should go more of the CEO approach, which is just fine, like what Dan Campbell's doing. And if I were him, I would look at a guy like Zach Robinson, coordinator out of the Rams. Excuse me. I think if you look at Zach Robinson's success rate, who he's coached, he's had experienced play calling as well at times with the Rams. And he's also worked with quarterbacks who have similar skill sets to Deshaun. He's had he's had quarterbacks who like Baker Mayfield he worked with in that period and make Baker look pretty solid. And he also worked with another quarterback who's more of a running style quarterback. And that guy ended up under one game with Robinson. I think he was like second or third in the Rams history and rushing yards by quarterback in a game or something like that. So he's proven to work with multiple quarterbacks. And you look at the Rams system too; it's a lot of motion, a lot of tempo. They develop receivers very well, which we need. You know, I think that fits more of our style. And there's a reason why Sean McVay's had a high success rate in that system, just plugging and playing quarterbacks, because that system is very quarterback friendly. It's more for the modern day quarterback, especially. Gary Kubiak's system, what Kevin has been running, that's good for the older quarterbacks. They're not coming around anymore, and we don't have one of those. Deshaun's more of the more athletic. He's a Bugatti. You gotta let him loose. That's his play style. You gotta let him loose, let him scramble, gotta let him improvise, but let him more tempo, use his legs. So I think Zach Robinson would be my number one choice. I know they interviewed
Andy Dickerson.
Andy Dickerson, who I read into. I think he's a good coach. But I think they're in a situation where they got to get somebody with some experience in there, I think, or with a proven offense. And really would just give them a new identity offensively. Maybe Eric Bieniemy will be available. I wouldn't mind that. I actually think Eric and Kevin would complement each other well, because Kevin's more, friendlier with the players, where I think Eric would hold guys more accountable. That's just by nature. That's how he is. I mean, it was Eric Bieniemy's background. That's a style of coaching, which I think is fine. I think that'd be good for Deshaun too. And I think Bieniemy could be a great coordinator. I think he did a nice job this year in Washington with what he had with Sam Howell. So he showed some nice things. And Kansas City was not the same since he's left. So I don't think. I think those would be my two names. I wouldn't. They got to get. But if you're going to do this, though, it's got to be a complete switch. Like, you can't just come get somebody else. And you're like, if they brought in Gary Kubiak's son, he might be a nice coordinator one day. But if you bring him in and you're just running the same system with a little extra, a little couple trick plays, there's no point in doing all this. That ain't going to work.
I think Clint Kubiak is actually high on my list, just because what San Francisco does is just the evolution of what the West Coast style offense is, which is more meaningful motion, a lot more RPO, and the more advanced version of the Kubiak system does run a lot of shotgun. So I don't think Clint Kubiak would necessarily be a bad choice. As a matter of fact, I think it would work out relatively well, in my opinion. I do agree with you that Zach Robinson is near the top of my list. And if they did hire someone like Andy Dickerson from Seattle, who is currently their O-line coach, who basically was also the running game coordinator, who basically fixed that entire
he's a really respected coach. I like Andy.
Oh, yeah. I like him a lot. But I think the overall offense would be a collaborative effort between him and Bill Musgrave in that situation, who's already on the staff, and Bill Musgrave would essentially become the passing game coordinator and the offensive coordinator, play caller, kind of behind the scenes, if that makes sense. Because essentially we don't have a passing game coordinator now, and the reason why Alex Van Pelt more so, it says he was fired, but real report. He was let go, but it was more so a mutual parting of ways, because there was a report that Kevin was interested in hiring a passing game coordinator to help facilitate plays on the offense and with offensive play calling. And Alex kind of knew, well, that means that, I'm not going to be as important. I'm not going to have as much pull. It's going to be really this guy. So I think it's best we just part ways. So I think that makes sense for both parties, because if an Andy Dickerson is hired, we are hiring a passing game coordinator as well. if we hire Zach Robinson or Clint Kubiak. I don't think something like that is needed.
No, but they can do it all in one, which I think
Right.
that's what they need. We don't need. I think the Cleveland's gone through too many in the front office area and the coaching area of multiple people that can
Yeah.
cause problems. Because I know like for instance, college in 2015 when Urban Meyer after they came off the Ohio State came off the national championship, right? And Tom Herman was the offensive coordinator the year before, and everything worked great. And they won the national championship. Tom Herman was a great play caller. Everybody's on the same page. Well, he got the job at Texas, or I think it was no, excuse me, it was Houston.
Mhm.
And so they had a whole new thing. Well, Urban decides to make Ed Warner the play caller. Ed Warner could barely spit a play out calling a play, and it was complete tire fire. It got to the point to where going in the Virginia Tech game that first week, one coach would call a run play and the other coach would call the passing play. And I remember a coach on the staff, Zach Smith, on a show said it was an absolute. You can't work like that. It's an
Tire fire.
absolute. Yeah, it's an absolute tire fire. And that was a complete disservice. That team should have won the whole thing that year, and it was a complete disservice to those players and to the fans. But and by the end, the middle of that season, Urban was telling everybody that he effed it up too. So
Yeah.
I think they're at a point. The Browns, if you're in a situation, you got to win now, and you got to maximize this year because you don't know what's going to happen. If you repeat next year, and what happened this year, next year, you don't know what can go happen. I mean,
Right.
guys don't want to waste time anymore. You don't know. Certain guys are different. Like you just can't mess around, and it would look really bad too.
Right.
And so I think Zach Robinson to me or Eric Bieniemy, somebody with experience who has an identity. You could just plug and play him right in here. I think that's more to me. That's you have to do that. It makes the most sense if you're trying to win now. Make it easier for yourself and the team. You just pulled this trigger like this, and some of the reports too said some of the players weren't happy with some of these moves. So they really got to. I agree with the move in terms of not that like I don't think Alex Van Pelt did anything that was a fireable offense or the other two guys. That's just, I mean, here they know more internally than we do, I guess, about the identity of the offense. So they could also keep it in house too. There's another name in house they can stick with, and that's Chad O'Shea. And the offensive and the Baltimore Ravens tried interviewing him last year for that job for the coordinator. Before they went with Monken. So they may go in house with O'Shea, and I actually think O'Shea would be a very good coordinator, and I think O'Shea would do a nice job of expanding the offense more. You still got Bill Callahan in the building. I don't think Bill's going anywhere. Even if his son gets a job, I don't think Bill's leaving because they gave him too much money. So that's where I'm at with. I think you got to stick with one, and somebody who can just, and that's your identity. But they can't do the multiple thing, and they also can't come back with the same flavor next year, which is a little, it's like, it's like if you took a shitty car and repainted it, but the motor's still jacked up and everything, it's still a shitty car. So, we need a new flavor in this thing. I think that's why, I'll be honest with you, Mike, that's why a lot of people are throughout this year, and some fans still screaming that they just want some new coach or something new because what's been going on the offensive side just isn't going to work. It's not with his skill set. It's not going to work. And I said that 2 years ago. You could just tell. You know what I mean? Because if you watch him his whole career, and I think if Kevin's doing that, he's doing the right thing. You know what I mean? He's going to give up the play calling. He's going to go to more CEO approach. I think he's actually really good at. He even looks like a CEO. So, and the way the team responded, you have to give him credit for that. And I think
Absolutely.
what Njoku said publicly the other day too, I found interesting. Almost like he was vouching for the coach in a way. He said when he first got here, is that his relationship with Kevin was kind of rocky. He wanted out, and then as time has gone on, that I think once they got the certain players we know who out of the building, really this year and the last year, I think guys have been able to connect with him more, and that Kevin's been more comfortable now doing what he wants to do, implementing what he wants his franchise to look like. So,
Right.
I think that's important. So I think if he can take a step back with the play calling and hand it off to somebody, let them just. I think it's important too, as a former player, and you watching on sidelines. The best teams I was on was when my coach could work with the quarterback on the sideline while the defense was out there. because there was more communication going on. The more communication during the game, the better. I mean, everybody's getting on the same page. You're able to watch film on the tablet.
Right.
He was sitting with AVP, but it's not like AVP was calling any plays. Kevin still has to go out there and coach a game. And so I think that's important too. I think having somebody that can work with Deshaun every single day, every minute, that's what's ultimately going to get him back to that elite form.
I agree. And, I think the Browns are moving in the right direction. You have a great basis to work off of. And I think the areas of need are pretty evident. And that kind of goes up to my next topic, ways to improve the team. Because, our core is staying. We have 26 players that are going into free agency. A lot of those are on the defensive side of the ball, though. But our core is pretty much set.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say that draft-wise, I know everybody's really high on drafting a receiver. I personally do not think the Browns are going to take a receiver with their first pick. And here's why. I think the Browns are more than likely going to look either in a trade or the free agency route for a receiver. I think they're going to want to get somebody who has a little bit more experience,
proven,
who's more proven.
Yeah.
And who can help elevate the offense even further and to give Deshaun another proven option out there, along with David Njoku and Amari Cooper. We've seen what Amari Cooper can do, but obviously you want somebody, obviously he wasn't 100% at the end of the season. He wasn't 100% in that playoff game for sure. Amari
he was
Cooper,
really consistent all year, was Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
he was really consistent. It was you literally had one guy the whole year. And with Deshaun, you probably want to be about 4 or 5 deep there, at least 4. So
at least you want at least 3 reliable weapons. And
I think you want to have 4 guys. I think David counts now. I think David is
kind of like David's up there.
So you have 2. You got Amari, you got David, but I think you still need a slot. You need the outside guy. You need a deep ball threat, and you need a guy that you can count on to come in there, a plug and play guy.
Yeah. So I think they're going to look at a T. Higgins, a Mike Evans. There are a couple trade candidates. AJ Brown is very unhappy with the Philadelphia Eagles.
I would avoid AJ Brown.
He's a little bit of a diva.
Yeah,
but
we don't need
talent-wise, he's one of the best in the league. And if the Browns can get him at an affordable draft,
I'll take his teammate.
They ain't moving off of Devontae.
I'll take his teammate.
They are not moving off of Devontae.
He's the better one. I'll take him. That dude there is a problem.
But AJ Brown, some other options that are out there. If they go the free agency route with both receivers for a speed option, I don't think Hollywood Brown is going to be that expensive. He had a very underwhelming year in Arizona, and I think he can still be a decent speed threat. He's not like a good, just number 1, but the Browns have had interest in him in the past. But Jerry Jeudy is also a free agent, and the Browns have made it very clear that they like Jerry Jeudy a lot, many times. So,
I don't know. I'll be honest. I want somebody that's going to come in here and just no bullshit. No nothing. Both with Jerry and AJ Brown, they're talented. AJ Brown obviously more proven. Jerry Jeudy's been very up and down. A little. I think has Jerry Jeudy been injured at all in his career?
I think his sophomore season he was out for a good part, but he played the past 2 seasons.
He's been available, but when there's some other stuff there, you're kind of like, okay, I don't know, it's a little game.
Well, I mean, he's been on the Broncos for 4 years. I'd be upset too if I was in his position.
I think T. Higgins, because his relationship with Deshaun Watson, they play together.
I mean, it does make sense.
I think the connection there, and I think T. Higgins is a number 1. He's just been a number 2 because of Jamar Chase, but I think T. Higgins, he's 6'3", 6'4", big body guy, can run every route, create separation. He is he's a number 1 receiver. And I think him with Deshaun and their connection already, they probably have a relationship, I'm assuming still. I think Terry McLaurin could be another name.
Yep.
Scary Terry. I think Scary Terry to me would be the speed you need. He's a great route runner. He's a great blocker. He's a great overall receiver. Terry's just a team first guy. Ever since he was at Ohio State. His coach, wide receiver coach Zach Smith, always praises Terry, just how great of a guy he is.
Terry is a great player.
Terry would fit right in Cleveland. Ohio State loved him, so he'd come back home to Ohio. The dog even likes him too. So I would go T. Higgins, Scary Terry, You think I don't know about Mike Evans' market's going to be. I like Mike Evans. Don't get me
I think.
wrong.
I mean,
I
no
mean,
matter if
what's
it's
Tampa
going to
going
be
to do is the
pricey. No
question
matter.
because if Tampa, some people, I heard somebody the other day, they think Baker's going to get $100 million contract. I think that's insane.
I think Baker is going to be a free agent. I promise you.
I think so
They are
too.
not. They're not rushing to get him signed because they know the market's not crazy for Baker. Baker, no hate. I'm not a hater towards Baker.
He's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yes.
Manage the game.
Right.
Don't turn the ball over.
I have said multiple
times.
But
he's not going to elevate you, or you're not going to win because
correct.
of
We know what his ceiling is.
Exactly.
If everything is right around Baker, Baker has time in the pocket. If he has good run game, if he has good weapons around him, he can win you games.
The coaching in Philadelphia is bad.
Yeah, exactly. He can win you some games. Philadelphia's a train wreck right now, and I think I actually picked the Buccaneers to win that game because that was their 7th straight loss. They started the season 10-1, and they more or less finished 11-7.
And if you go back and watch the first half of that game, you're just like, dropped 3 interceptions they should have had. I mean, so much. I mean, the coaching was horrendous.
I don't know if Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback anymore. That's how messed up the Eagles are. Like
just like we were talking about earlier, that scheme don't fit him. That's for sure. Whatever they ran this year.
No. Wow. Shane Steichen, great coaching hire, Indianapolis. You got a real one.
Our boy Roscoe's in here digging the new setup.
Look at Roscoe's profile pic. Look at that. That's a man right there. That looks like an Andrew Tate supporter right there. I love it.
Couldn't even do the tush push.
Oh, no, they couldn't.
Couldn't even execute the play they created. Couldn't even do it. That's how bad it is.
So, yeah, I mean,
but anyways,
definitely. Yeah. Anyways, back to what the Browns. So I do think the Browns are going to explore a trade or a free agent wide receiver, of which there are a lot of. No matter what you're looking for, it's out there. If the Browns draft a receiver, it's going to be a speed option, probably in the later rounds. Somebody like a Jacob Cohen, somebody like
that guy right there. You just mentioned Jacob Cohen is the biggest sleeper receiver in the entire draft.
Who told you about him first, baby?
Well, I heard him from another coach, but
I told you the name first.
No, you brought him up. No, you brought, and he was. I like what they did this year in Arizona, but he's a very good player. He creates separation very well. He's just a really good ball catcher. Great balance, speed. He's got the whole package. Why he's rated so low, I have no idea.
Sleeper. Him and Brendan Rice, both sleepers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure Brendan Rice is well coached. I mean, his dad's probably the greatest receiver of all time. So
Jerry Rice might be the greatest player of all time,
possibly. But yeah, I think the Cohen is it Cohen?
Jacob Cohen. I think it's Cohen.
Jacob C in Arizona.
Give
me him. I want him.
He's great.
I think he's what we need. He's a high volume guy.
If he's available in a later round, a Jalen McMillan type would be.
I like the Cohen kid because he's fast. Yeah. That kid's got speed too. He's an overall receiver. I like him a lot. I would take him, and I would take T. Higgins. I think you give me those two. We got something cooking now with the new offense. Nick Chubb coming back. O-line getting healthy. I really like that team now.
And so, per PFF, yeah, Watson, I agree, buddy. I'm just gonna sit here with him.
No, he's
so
he's not a PFF.
No, he doesn't like PFF. He doesn't agree with the grades.
It is a little up and down, Watson. I agree with you.
It is a little up and down, Watson, isn't it? So with PFF on our draft board says that we need safety, defensive interior, wide receiver. There's only one that I think that we'll actually draft is defensive interior. And that's because, you have Mo Hurst leaving, Shelby Harris is leaving, Siaki Ika, I think, is going to take Shelby Harris's role. I do think, and Jordan Elliott's leaving. I do think that they will do their utmost to retain Maurice Hurst because after surgery, I think you can still get him on a 1-year deal. But draft-wise, I think the first pick that the Browns are going to look at is either defensive interior, but more importantly, and I think you can agree with me here, is Mike linebacker is probably going to be our first pick. You have Anthony Walker, who I do think they will try and bring back on another 1-year deal. However, he hasn't finished a season in 2 years with us. He's been with us for 3 years. He's only played 1 full year.
Great guy.
He is Oh no, and that's the only reason why we're going to retain him is because, in my opinion, he is so important leadership wise,
They
morale
missed
wise,
his
and in that locker room.
communication. He's usually the green dot,
Yeah,
and they really missed that without him. I think that Houston game really showed it. The lack of communication without him out there, I think, really. And people don't understand. I mean, that's a big part. Obviously, he's a centerpiece of your communication in the defense. He was out, and I think it really hurt him in that game a little bit. That could have been part of it.
right. And I agree 100. So I do think he comes back. I unfortunately, as much, and we've talked about this before, how much I love Sione Takitaki, how I think he's probably the most underrated Brown we have. I think he's played well enough this year, especially, to warrant a big contract somewhere else. I do think he's going to get paid somewhere. It's not going to be here. The only linebacker that's going to be getting paid long term on this team is named Jeremiah Owusu
Who,
Koromoa.
by the way, made the Pro Bowl today.
Yeah, congratulations,
Should have
first
made it the
Pro
first
Bowl,
time.
well
Anyways,
earned. He should have made All Pro, if you ask
should have
me.
made all. Yeah, I mean, over 20 plus tackles for loss. You should be All Pro for sure. That's
Exactly.
that's Luke Kuechly.
Oh
Type.
man, Luke Kuechly was a dog. That's a name. That's a name.
That's where he's been mentioned statistically this year with that name. So I don't know how that guy doesn't make the Pro Bowl, but continue. So
yeah. So I do think they look to get younger there. There are a couple names to watch. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson is my highest rated Mike linebacker. He is great at coverage. He is big. He's fast. He can cover well. He can get sacks. He can play outside. He can play inside. The kid is versatile, and he's just an excellent linebacker. And if he falls to the second round, which because this draft is so heavy on tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, I think there is a high chance he does. I don't think there will be a linebacker taken in the first round just because of how heavy this draft is on those position groups, and the few defensive backs that are first round grades will probably be taken as well, along with the few defensive ends. It's not very deep at defensive end or interior or cornerback for that matter. But so the few that are a first round grade were more than likely going to be taken first, along with all the tackles and whatnot. On top of that, I'd say that another big need that the Browns have, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is tight end. Harrison Bryant's gone. Jordan Akins has been disappointing, but he's on a 2-year deal. Maybe, he can, sorry, my dog was growling. Somebody's shoveling snow outside and she's not happy about it.
The snow or the shoveling?
I think both.
Yeah,
she's short haired. She hates this. Yeah. But yeah, so Jordan Akins again was disappointing. Harrison Bryant's gone. They're going to want to get younger. I actually really, really like this tight end class. And I think in the third round, you can get somebody who can be pretty productive for you within their rookie year. Right in our backyard, I think Cade Stover has a fourth round grade, has been proven as a pass catcher at Ohio State. Could work on his blocking technique, but I think that if you get a new tight end coach in there who can kind of focus on that, you can kind of get that out of him.
He's a really physical, aggressive, competitive kid. So a lot of run blocking. Really, most of it's just off of desire. Really, there's not really no skill to it. It's just more desire. Pass pro is a little different,
right?
But I think Cade would be great. He really improved this year. I think he'd be really good in the red zone if you need different packages, the run packages. And I think he'd be actually really good. I think Coach Callahan would probably teach some blocking stuff.
Yeah.
I want to add one name though, a guy I think a late rounder linebacker maybe is Omar Spates out of LSU.
I like him a lot.
I think he was an Oregon State guy who transferred to LSU this year, but I think you look at his size, his athleticism, he's got some
like him
athleticism. I like his demeanor. From Philly too, Kevin's hometown. I think he can end up being a good pro, like a guy you draft and maybe kind of like an Anthony Walker type. So I like him, but yeah, I agree. I think. Who do you think the first pick? Byron Murphy's there, D tackle. I think
if Byron Murphy is there and we don't take him, I'm gonna riot because he is the most talented defensive interior guy that might be there in the late first, early second round. He has the highest pass rush win rate out of any defensive tackle in college football. I love his game, and I know on some draft boards he is there when the Browns pick. realistically, though, dude, like I don't know if he's
I
actually
don't
going to
know.
be
I
there.
mean,
I think the Senior Bowl rolls
I think
around, and
the Browns tried to move up to get him a little bit.
I would love that because he is
I
a
wouldn't
dog.
mind that because I think they got a couple extra picks that can pull that off. I mean, you don't
We
really
do,
need some of those picks anyway. So,
and
um,
with us having our first round pick back next year, I think they'd be more willing to give up a second,
yeah,
if they have to. If there's someone they really, really, really like to move up, like 2 seconds for a late first or 2 seconds for a really early
I
second.
mean, the only guy I could think of that if he somehow fell in the first round, they can go get him was that Newton kid out of Illinois. But I highly doubt he gets out of the top 10.
Now he's going to be the first defensive tackle taken.
Yeah, I mean, unless somehow he
That
fell.
kid's
Yeah, I agree with you. But I think Byron Murphy should be probably the number one target. I think he would be.
I agree.
They need that guy, that solidified guy. Put him with Ika.
And like he could be your long-term pass rush solution because obviously you have Dalvin Tomlinson for 3 more years. He's under contract. I think if they take a defensive end, again, it'll be a later round guy. I think Alex Wright has proven, especially near the end of the season when he got more playing time,
he was producing.
He's the dude.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he got 6 sacks and 1 sack every game for the last 6 games. Obo Okoronkwo, I've been singing his praises since the beginning of the season. He's played well, and then you obviously have Isaiah McGuire, who's just been cooking, getting developed all year, and him as like a rotational piece.
I think Alex Wright can be that guy on the opposite edge of Miles.
I really do think so as well.
He has the athleticism, the talent. Like when he's got
size,
the more reps he's gotten out there, the more he's produced. I think he's just always had somebody in front of him since he's been here. He had Jadavian in front of him. Now he had Zadarius in front of him. So, yeah, I think give him more starting reps. I think he'll produce. He's shown it. I mean, almost 10 sacks this year, I think.
Yeah, overall. He had because he had a sack every game, and he already had 2. So I think he finished the year with like 7 sacks.
Yeah, he made some big plays for those games, like the Chicago game and some of those games.
Oh, yeah. And he had a bunch of tackles for loss. He was really important in the run game, not just the pass. Like, he was really good in the run game. I like Alex Wright. I like that pick when we made it.
Yeah. There's only 2 guys in the secondary I think need to step up a little bit. I think Juan Thornhill didn't have the best stretch down the stretch.
No.
And I get it. Maybe
he had a lingering calf injury.
Yeah, maybe that was part of it. I think he'll be all right though. He's got experience, Super Bowl winner. So, but the guy that needs to improve though is Greg Newsome for sure. That was a bad game. He's had some of those games this year. Now Greg's had some games where he's looked great. I think Greg's a really good player. I think he's out of the 3 though. I think he's the 3rd. But
I agree with that.
I've always said that. But
black guy.
I wouldn't. If they can get a right receiver out there and he's available, maybe you have to give him up to get that receiver. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think Greg's. You can fill that position. You got Cam Mitchell. I think the Sanderstill kid coming out in the draft from Michigan could play that. He's perfect for that position. Physical kid, fast.
This is the first draft I don't see the Browns taking a corner.
Unless they trade Greg, I think. Because if they trade
I don't even think they take a corner if they trade Greg.
I would still. I think if you get that. I think the Sanderstill kid would really fit the scheme well. I think he's a true slot guy. So
if you did trade Greg Newsome, I think Cam Mitchell has played well when he's in that slot.
And
then you still have AJ Green and I can never say this cat's name, but we signed him to a futures contract. Halase. He played a couple games and he actually played decent. The kid that was a UDFA from Kansas City, whose name I can never. He wore 25. Halase, KHA. Yeah. But he played well.
Do you think Greg could possibly be on the trading block?
If I don't know, because it really depends on who.
I mean, I get what some people were saying. It shouldn't. I'm not saying blame Greg. It's all on
no.
Greg
It's not Greg's fault.
No,
it really isn't.
You have to evaluate the play, and you have to evaluate the weakness in the secondary, and that's a weakness.
And they motioned their best weapon onto him.
Yeah, and it's a problem that it's fixable, but it could require you.
It just requires, and I think Jim will fix that. Second year in the scheme, you're going to introduce more complex
may just have to get a different chess player to put out there for that position like that. So
yeah.
because you have two guys that are better on the outside than him, you're not going to make, you're not going to take an all-pro Denzel, and you're not going to take Martin Emerson and move him. So it's a tricky spot because it's like, I think Greg's a nice player, but it's just, at the same time, it's like, what do you think? I mean, hell, if you start flirting the market with them, and it's one less guy you'd have to pay too.
Well, I think he'll walk. I think we're going to let him walk no matter what. The only guy
you might as well see what you can get for him now. If you can get a proven receiver, maybe you go get a proven linebacker. You know what I mean? Or
right.
I think it's worth looking at. Maybe a left tackle. Maybe you call Denver and say, "Hey, let's get what's their left tackle?
Garrett Bowles.
Send him over. I mean, in a pick or something. I don't know. I mean, something. I think they'd be, and I'm sure they will. And I think that's why. I know Greg was upset on Twitter this week, but I mean,
and he admitted he was just having fun. But like I get emotions run high. I mean, these guys do this for a living, right? And like like obviously as fans, we want them to win, right? I mean, that's half the enjoyment of watching the game is winning. So, if these guys do it for a living, obviously they want to win. I'm sure losing a playoff game if you do it for a living doesn't feel good. So, I'd rather Greg not do that, but I think we all would agree.
I actually, really be honest with you, I didn't really. The tweet I thought was kind of, don't be paying attention to what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, if you messed up, you know what you do? Get your ass back in the lab. Get to work.
Like I get emotions were running high, so I'm not gonna he was more upset than us. There's no way he wasn't because he was on the field.
Well, I'm looking at you as here. Our job is to, like, fans or people that cover the game and ex-players. Right. Our job is to evaluate the game, and what we saw was a weakness. And so that's what I'm saying. I bring it up.
And he had a bad game. He'll be the first to admit he had a bad game. He admitted it. Actually,
that game. It's not just that game though. We've seen other times this year, which we've talked about on the show at times.
He had a bad game in Denver.
He's not the overall best corner you have. So my whole point is, I think he's a movable guy for the right price,
if need be.
And if you're not going to pay him, then you know what I mean. And I think the
market's there.
I think the kid coming out in the draft, Sanders, still was a true corner that wants to play inside. What's the actual? There's outside, inside corner. So my brain's having a little fun. But what would you nickel corner? So
yeah.
Slot nickel corner. Yeah. So I think the Sanders still kid, you got a guy sitting there and they can grab him too, where he's going to be sitting in the draft with the picks they have. I think that's a kid I would look at and say you plug and play. And then Cam Mitchell would still be kind of like my, rotational corner because it gives you more flexibility, which I think they need. So I agree with a lot of people why they're saying maybe move off of them. So I think
if the market's there, I mean, here if Washington was like, if Washington was like, give us a third and Greg, or give us a second for Terry McLaurin, I would trade Greg Newsome for Terry McLaurin because I think that helps us more now.
Not even, yeah.
But that being said, there are two more draft things I want to add in. Tackle, I'm gonna correct myself because earlier on a previous episode I said I don't think they'll look at tackle. I do think they look at tackle in the draft. I really do. I think they do. James Hudson obviously isn't a great swing tackle, and he's gone after this year. We're obviously not paying him. I think Jed is going to come back, and he's going to play the way Jed plays. But I think that the bigger need is probably guard. I think Joel's going to play one more year. I think that's it. I think Joel's going to finish his contract with us and retire. I really do. No matter what the outcome of next year is, I really think we're coming on to Joel's last year. And I hope we win the championship next year for Joel because he deserves it. But I really do think they look at guard. Unless they already think they can move Luke Whippler to guard.
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I think Luke played guard at Ohio State early on, and when he stepped in there, I think he's actually more of a natural guard. To be honest with you, he's built like a guard. That's kind of what I thought with Nick Harris.
Yeah, I didn't know what their plan was with him. If he is going, I mean,
I think you could swing him to left or right. To be honest with you, and if they can do that, I would still draft probably if you want another center. Drake Nugent out of Michigan will be there. He's probably the best center in the draft to draft, in my opinion.
And he's been mocked very late.
Yeah, like he should be way higher. That guy's gonna be a 5-10 year pro. He's trained my guy Matt McChesney trains him, and the kid's very intelligent and proved. And what's crazy about Drake Nugent? Real quick, was he came out of Stanford this year, and I think Florida State and some other schools said he was too small. And the kid goes to Michigan this year, wins a national championship, and is the second, I think, the highest rated center in the country, or second. Came second in the center award and showed on tape why he's going to be a 5-10 year pro in the NFL.
Yeah, so I like his tape a lot.
He's really good.
I like him, and I like Zach Zinter a lot.
I like both of them. Get them both if you could. I don't know.
Right. I love Zach Zinter.
Pair them both. I mean, I think both of them together. Now Zinter, I don't know how long he's going to be out, but I know he'll be back fine. But I think Drake Nugent, Zach Zinter, anybody for that Michigan offensive line that's in the draft, take them. They're all good. So. I think another kid too at left tackle who Joe Thomas would like this from Wisconsin, Jack Nelson.
I think Jack Nelson.
I think Jack Nelson could be a solid pick. I think they really got to consider taking a left tackle, either getting one or drafting one. I think the Jack Nelson kid would be really good. I'd probably go 2 O-line. I think you should always take an O-lineman every year.
The tackle from the Patriots isn't going to be back. Their star left tackle.
What's his name?
Owamu.
Oh, that was something you could pronounce, Mike. Let me look it up.
I'm sorry, sir. You're watching this. I'm sorry.
All right, we don't watch the Patriots. Let me look it up. Who's their left
Patriots tackle? Patriots tackle free agent. If you Google that, it should come up.
I just went to the roster here. Let's see. They got Calvin Anderson, Trent Brown. I think Trent Brown was their starter. And
he might be playing right tackle, but he can move.
Tyrone Wheatley, Connor McDermott. I think it's Trent Brown.
It might be Trent Brown. What the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, it's Trent Brown. Yeah, I don't know who you're thinking of. No, they drafted the Mafi kid.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of Olagusin Oluwatimi because we were talking about Michigan centers. I was thinking about last year's center.
Wait, did they take him?
No,
they didn't take him.
No, we were just talking about Michigan centers, and I got.
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell are you talking about? Like, it's like.
I was thinking about Olagusin Oluwatimi.
It's somebody like Trent Brown or somebody. I knew
it is Trent Brown.
Somebody from Oklahoma. So that's
and
Trent Brown.
If he's available,
no, he's from Florida. Excuse me, I'm thinking.
Dog, I pay him. I pay Trent Brown money. I pay that man.
I would too. They need to get the left tackle.
I like Jack.
He's a nice kid, like you said, good kid, but. Yeah, you saw. I mean, same thing with DeJuan Jones. You upgraded, so that was by default. It wasn't not that Jack Conklin's bad, but
he's hurt.
DeJuan's better. So DeJuan's your right tackle now for a long time. So yeah, I agree. I think they got to get that left tackle thing done. I think Jack Nelson, or I prefer I would actually go that route. Jack to go get Trent Brown or Garrett Bowles, one of the two. And then I would probably draft either Nugent or Zinter for the inside.
I agree. And another, actually, running back. We need to draft a running back. Or if we went the free agent route, DeAndre Swift is a free agent. So is Austin Eckler. So is Saquon Barkley. Ooh.
I probably
DeAndre Swift
coming here. Saquon's not going to come here. I know that.
Swift. We tried to trade for him. We like DeAndre Swift, and that front offense. That front offense loves DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to somebody yesterday who watches Philly all year, like they're Philly fans, and he was telling me, he's like watching DeAndre all year. He's not a number one, but he's definitely a bruiser. He's a good back. He can get yards. I think DeAndre would be fine if you're going to get somebody. I mean, obviously, I'm sad to see Kareem. I like Kareem a lot. Kareem's great points. Kareem's so good on the short downs, and he can get you touchdowns too.
But
but I don't know what they're going to do there. So Jerome Ford just didn't really improve this year. I think Jerome Ford has the potential, the talent. He has the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he doesn't understand.
Doesn't have very good vision yet.
Doesn't have NFL. Reads and stuff. He just doesn't have that.
His vision's not there yet.
Yeah, he's still in the college level. So I mean, you hang on to Jerome, I guess. Let maybe Deuce will coach if that's who they hire. Will coach him up. But they got to get somebody else in there a little more proven. So I think DeAndre Swift. If you're going to draft somebody, I mean, I think Blake Corum because
Like
of where you can get him. I think, and Blake's a good player.
or
Don't get
Trey
me wrong.
Benson. I like both of them.
Well, I think the Dylan Johnson kid, even I was Washington's really good. He's a tough kid. But probably Blake Corum because Blake Corum's probably is whoever's Blake Corum's the most like Kareem.
Yeah.
So I would probably go Corum in the draft if you can get him. I think they can. So I'd say Blake Corum. Well, if you think DeAndre Swift, I'd probably go DeAndre Swift too. So, but they really got to be sure though. I would prefer to go the younger route, the fresher legs, and Corum. Just in case I think we expect Chubb to be just fine. But in case Chubb needs some load off, I think Corum's a young kid. He's going to want all the
Yeah, it's a
reps
major injury, and
coming off
obviously
national
when we're
championship. So
right, obviously we want Chubb to be 100, but like that's a real hard injury for a running back to have twice and
yeah,
come back from 100. Like I want him to be good. I want him to retire Browns fans, believe me.
oh
I'm
yeah,
not part of the let's cut Chubb crowd. I'm not
hell no,
that.
that's
I'm not part
insane.
of the I'm not part of the let's let him walk crowd, but at the end
No.
of the day, if we're talking realistics, that's really hard to do. Like your knee as a running back twice.
If anybody could do it
That's
though, it's him. So
I agree. And that's why I'm hopeful. But
I agree.
you have to be prepared for all eventualities or possibilities. So
Yeah, I got to hit on something real quick though before I
yeah,
know
go.
before we do predictions before we get out of here. Ohio State hired offensive coordinator Bill
Bill
O'Brien.
O'Brien, baby.
I like the
Oh
hire.
God.
I actually like the hire. I think
You like the hire.
I
Okay.
think it'll be fine. I
Ohio
trust.
State Twitter does not like the hire.
I know they don't because here a lot of people look at what happened at the end of Alabama and what happened to the Patriots, but I don't think you can't really judge him for what happened with the Patriots this year because did he pick the talent?
Right.
The Ohio State's offense with Kyle McCord this year was better than that offense in college, and that offense at Ohio State wasn't that good to me.
Yeah.
So that's how bad it was with the Patriots. I think though Bill O'Brien has a proven track record, and last time he was on a really good team in college with Tua and with Jameson Williams, they did some damage, and so I think he'll be fine. I think he's finally in a situation now where he's not under the Belichick or the Nick Saban umbrella. He's in a
Right.
fresh situation where he can do what he wants to do. And I think it's still collaborative with Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day is still one of the best younger offensive minds in the entire in football. So it's gonna be collaborative. And I think they'll be fine. I mean, you look at that team next year. My gosh, that team next year. I mean, that Brian has to win it all next year. That team, especially if they bring in these two dudes from Alabama, especially the Josh Downs kid, maybe in the left tackle, that roster next year is definitely the most talented in college football. It's the most experienced, and there's no excuse to not win the whole thing. To be honest with you, so
I agree. I mean, with everybody coming
your only
back, they're
your
fucking
only
better.
competitor is Georgia, and I think we have the two best running backs in the country on the same team.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally went out and recruited the best running back in the SEC and paired him with arguably the best running back in the country, and they're going to split those carries, which is insane. So I think as long as they get the O line short up, and I actually think the Will Howard kid will be pretty good, or Devin Brown if there's a competition.
I
But
think Will Howard's
it's
going to
probably
get
gonna be
that
Will
job.
Howard. I agree too. I think it's probably time for Devin Brown to probably get a new situation. I think he's a good player. We just haven't really got to see him because he never got the shot and he got hurt. I
Yeah.
think wherever he goes, he'll be good. Good player. But it's probably time to move on because it's just you got Aaron Nolan coming in, and Aaron Nolan has to.
Aaron Nolan's a dog, dude.
He's the next Justin Fields, so that kind of caliber recruit. So he better be playing in 2025 because Will Howard's a one and done. And so it kind of works out perfectly if you bring in, or if they go get the kid. They're already linked now to the kid at Alabama who entered the portal today.
Yeah, I
So,
saw that.
which I kind of agree with. I think it's time to move on from that whole last 3 years, the quarterback thing. It's time to move on from all those guys. So you got 1 year with Will Howard to get it done. But I think the Bill O'Brien, I don't think it's as bad as people think. A lot of times when these NFL guys come back to college, they light it up. So as coordinators, because you went from the highest level to now you're going down to college where the hashes are shrinked in a little bit more, and you know, um, I think it'll be all right. I mean, I get why some people are concerned about it, but I don't think it's as big of a deal. I think it'll be just fine. So I think they'll balance each other out. Him and Ryan, if that makes sense.
I agree.
So
You want to do some playoff predictions before we get out of here?
yeah, we got to do this. And there's already been some trash talk amongst our panelists with the Lions and Buccaneers. I was told Baker Mayfield's $100 million man.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that he's better than Bernie Kosar too. I was told that.
What people say under the influence of drugs is amazing to me.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. But anyways, we'll start with the first game tomorrow, Mike. The red hot Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens, who have been off for 2 weeks now. CJ Stroud's balling out of his mind. Not sure what the weather's going to be like down there, but
I don't know either.
4:30 tomorrow night. Tomorrow, what do you think, Mike? Who do you got?
I'm going Baltimore. Much as I hate to say it, I think Lamar is trying to win us first, and I think they're at least going to go to the AFC Championship game. I'm going to go Baltimore.
This is tough because man, the Texans.
Houston's
really
red hot, and they want a playoff game.
Stroud's so good. But Baltimore has to win, so I'm gonna pick them because they have to win.
Yeah,
if they lose that game,
all
hell's gonna break loose in Baltimore. Because but I think Baltimore has to make it to the AFC Championship game
at the very least.
Which obviously
after the season they have, they
have to make it, and that to be competitive in that game because they have not done a whole lot of the playoff at all. So. I'm going to take Baltimore. Now, the Packers, 49ers, I'm going with the Packers.
I'm going with the Packers, too. Let's go. Go, Pack, go.
That team is rolling with Jordan Love. Man,
Jordan Love's a dog. I told you.
What they did to the Cowboys. What they did to the Cowboys, my gosh. Jordan Love is a dude, and probably will be a top 5 quarterback one day. I think the way he looked last week. What I saw last week was the first time I actually sat and watched him.
Yes.
And I was like, this guy is doing Aaron Rodgers type stuff off of 1 foot, flicking it in the air, dropping dimes. I mean, the tempo they play with, their defense has always been pretty solid. They retained a lot of those guys. They're playing pretty well.
I agree.
I think young quarterbacks who have the rest like that, Brock Purdy, they usually don't play well. And
I agree.
49ers have had some flukes this year in their season, so they've had some doozy games. You remember when they got a little down, then they bounced back. They're still a good team, but I got the Packers. They're playing with house money.
I got with the Packers. Yeah, go Pack, go baby. And by the way, real quick, little side rail there. Green Bay fans, I hate every single one of you. How dare you go from Bart Starr to Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, while me, a Browns fan, has started 35 different fucking guys under center for the past 16 years. I'm looking into your soul, Packers fans. I hate you. Not because I actually hate you, because I'm envious and I hate you for it. And I wish I could steal them away in the night. I'm going to find you. I hate you. Yeah, boo me.
No,
I'm booing
our franchise for that.
I hate it. I had to watch Charlie Fry play football on Sunday. I had to do that. I had to believe in Derek Anderson after 1 Pro Bowl year. I hate all of you. And why couldn't we have picked Jaden Reed? He's so good at football. I wanted Jaden Reed.
I got a funny story quick about Charlie Fry.
God damn it. Go ahead.
I've told this story before. Shout out my buddy Ian Platt I grew up with school with.
No offense to Charlie Fry.
Him and I talked about this recently, and we're laughing about it. This is actually about Charlie Fry. And who's in the Hall of Fame at Akron. He was a good college player, but
yeah.
I'm at the training camp in 2007, right? We just drafted Joe Thomas, and me and my buddy Ian go up there with my parents. They take us up there. We get in line to get the autographs underneath the tent. Back then, they saw like the tent. It's waiting. You had your shit to sign. And Charlie Fry, it went Charlie Fry, Joe Thomas, and maybe like Josh Cribbs or Phil Dawson or some other guys, right? Cole Jackson. And we waited in line for like a good amount. We get up to the front, and Charlie Fry is sitting right there. We walked right past him, went right to Joe Thomas. We never forgot about it. And I asked about it recently. He remembered it. He goes, "Dude, I remember that. We walked right by his ass." I mean, we just kept walking. Not to be anything against Charlie Fry, but
no, I'm sure he's a great guy. That's what I said. But like,
we gave him like two 7-year-olds kind of gave him like a big F off in a way.
Yeah,
like,
you'll be out of here soon.
Yeah, I never forgot.
Welcome to the carousel.
I mean, we walked right by his ass. I mean, just boom. They were like, okay, he's sitting there waiting for us. We just went right to Joe Thomas, and we just kept going down the line and left. I'll never forget that. But
that's awesome.
I'd tell that story again. My buddy Ian, if you're watching, I know we talked about it recently. He was laughing about it too. I mean, that was I'll never forget that.
Fucking great.
But
then we got Detroit and Tampa Bay. Detroit easily. Detroit.
I hate to say it, and I like Tampa. What Tampa's done is
I don't hate to say it.
Well, here, Tampa's my second home, and I'm glad for our buddy Dan that his team. But I like the Bucks because Tampa's my second home. I actually lived there a little bit when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know.
And I got a lot of connections there, a lot of family there that lived there and still live there. So I'm happy for Tampa. And I think what Todd Bowles has done should get more credit. I think Todd Bowles.
Yeah, good for Todd, man.
I think he's
there was a lot of doubt on that guy.
Yeah, his defense, my gosh, what he did the other night was a masterpiece. I mean, the blitzes he does and just everything. However, watching the tape that Matt McChesney and JB broke down on their show the other day, Matt McChesney, former pro, JB, expert football analysis, quarterback guy, played college ball, pros. They broke down the game. And I think a lot of what Philly couldn't do, the Lions do well. In terms of, when they blitz that heavy, you're going to leave Laporta open on the hash a lot. He's going to sneak out of there. And I think Amon St. Brown runs a lot of those inside routes in the middle of the field, which for some reason Philly, and they broke down on the tape, they didn't do a lot. They were trying to call long balls when the middle of the field was wide open the whole game. When you're sending that much, when you're sending blitzes like that, I mean, it's going to be open. And Jared Goff does a nice job getting the ball out quick. So that's what he's a taller quarterback. He stands in the pocket. He can sling the ball a little and zip it out quick. So I think it's actually a bad matchup for Tampa personally. And I just don't think the Lions are going to drop 3 interception passes.
No.
And I think if you keep
Brian Branch is a dog back there, dude.
And I think Aiden Hutchinson is really coming alive now. I think he's really starting to find his groove with becoming an all-pro. And I think, the more you keep rolling out Baker Mayfield like that, especially to his left, he's going to run right into that guy eventually. Because Baker, when you still watch Baker, and here he had
Baker thing.
I get he had 4,000 yards and all that crap. Well, it's not crap. He had a nice year. I'm not down. I'm not hating on him at all. I actually like a lot of things with Baker. I think he's pretty, I like some things. He just wouldn't be my franchise guy, but he's in the NFL. Good, he's playing well.
He's in the NFL. Good for him. Give him a little pat on the head.
Yeah. However, when you watch him, he still clutches the ball like a son bitch.
Yep.
I mean, he
his
does
footwork
that.
fucking sucks.
His footwork stinks. He still scrambles out of the pocket. And I just think
he is a shorter Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He still jams the ball into traffic where he shouldn't. And I just think it's going to cost him. You can't do that. And they don't have like the best running game either. So
no, I like Rashad White, but they're
not a top tier running game. Like Detroit, I think Detroit could play smash mouth football.
Yeah, they can.
Some guys think that I get Tampa's front's really good, but when you blitz that much, I think Detroit's gonna actually be able to set the tone as the game goes on. It kind of do similar what the team in Ann Arbor does, which is pad you up front with their line of scrimmage play, and I think that's gonna wear on. I just think too, like I said, I think if you're looking for a juicy parlay, I think if you can get Sam Laporta or Amon St. Brown in those, do it. Both of them, I think, are gonna have great games. I think too. I think you might see Juice Williams maybe rip one off, maybe a bomb. You might see a bomb at one point. I don't know. Not an actual bomb, like a Hail Mary.
We knew what you
clarified. And I stand by what I said in the text chat the other night too. Baker Mayfield has never played in an environment, just like similar to Patrick Mahomes, we're gonna get to in a second, has never played on a road playoff game. Baker Mayfield has never played in an environment in his career like he's gonna play in on Saturday night. Or Sunday, excuse me. Sunday
afternoon.
3. He's never that stadium in Detroit with those fans who are like Cleveland fans. Don't mess around.
Ravenous.
They've been waiting for this game. He's never played in an environment like he's played in. Now, will that affect the game? It kind of does. I mean, it affects your communication a little bit, and it can, that Lions team, they're gonna be feeding off that, and Their corners are already talking smack, so
I watched Baker Mayfield throw 3 picks to the worst ranked secondary ever.
Yep, in the one half.
The Lions in one half. And we won that game, barely. And we booed his ass off the field.
No, I'm talking about this past game. Yeah, we did that game. Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm talking about 2021.
I remember that game
against the Lions. The Tim Boyle-led Lions.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about that game last week, what I saw against that secondary, which is pretty bad in Philly.
Yeah, they were bad.
In one second quarter, they dropped 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
3. And I'm like, I mean, they should have won the game, but regardless of the point, I don't think
we picked Detroit.
Detroit.
Then for the game of the week, the Bills versus the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game. And I got Buffalo. Buffalo advances to their second AFC championship.
We finally get to see this team, and all their chaos this year. They finally have to go on the road in the playoffs, Mike.
I don't think it's going to be well for them.
It's going to be a beat down. It's going to be snowed like hell there all week. It's going to be cold.
Chiefs are going to have to pay some guy a lot of money in the offseason because that receiver room, shit. Like there's no nice way to put it. Their wide receiver room is awful. Travis Kelce is a Hall of Famer. He's old. You know, they have no weapons. The run game, Isaiah Pacheco's nice, but like dog.
I like Pacheco, but
I like him, but like it's not like explosive. Like there's they got Patrick Mahomes. That's why they have a chance, is because they have the greatest quarterback in the league. That is the only reason why they are still competitive right now, which is amazing. Because the fact, you know, even if when they get bounced, and I do think they get bounced, and so do you, I still think it's an accomplishment with this dog shit roster they have on offense to get this far, because Patrick Mahomes is greatness. That's the only reason they've made it this far. So good for the Chiefs and good for Patrick Mahomes for being generationally amazing.
But I think, though, before we get it real quick for wrap up, I think similar to Detroit, I think those Detroit, Buffalo, those teams, they're going to be playing so hard for their fans. Just how loud it's going to be and how rowdy. I just think it's just going to be, that matters in a way. Like it just picks up the energy of the team.
Home field advantage is real. Everybody knows
it's real here in Cleveland. That's why we didn't lose a game this year at home, I don't think, besides one. So
we lost one, but it was the DTR Ravens.
The DTR debacle thing. So yeah. I mean, that's why I think Buffalo, they're primed to finally get over the hump. So this is it. They're at home. It snowed like hell. Yeah, I mean, you got the event. You're the better team probably overall this year. Time to get it done.
Yeah.
So, well, Mike.
Right. I think we did.
With Mike. We'll be back this weekend on Sunday. Mike's going to be here on Sunday. So, Steelers Freak and all our guys that tune in and watch us, we'll be seeing you guys on Sunday.
Seeing you on Sunday, and I will be talking about the Steelers. Believe it or not, I'm going to say what you need.
We'll react to whatever happens in some of these games.
Yes.
I'm sure our buddy Chris and Dan will be on, because we'll probably go right after the Bucks game. So
I can't wait to talk to Dan.
That'll be interesting. Maybe Chris will be jumping up and down celebrating, or he'll be a pissed off Detroiter. So
Detroit team.
Yeah. So, well, Mike, you want to tell me they need to like, subscribe, and share?
Guys, you got to like and subscribe, because if you like us, we like you, and we want to hear what you have to say. So also comment down below. Tell us if we're stupid. Tell us if we're smart. Tell us your opinions, because we want to hear them. Do you think your predictions are different? What do you think? If you're a Browns fan, what do you think we need? Who do you want as offensive coordinator? We'd love to hear your opinion. Share it in the comments down below, and like and share if you like the show. And please subscribe for more content, because we do content pretty often. Joseph does content nearly almost like 3 or 4 times a week. So more than that, hell. So yeah, if you like it, please stay around. We'd love to chat with you more.
All right. Love all you guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. We're out of here.
Out of here. See ya.
Down.